Hi class, so let's then proceed with some more basics of JavaScript. In this video, let's do a for loop and some simple conditionals and see, yeah, so let's start with that. So again, let's put the script tag in our HTML page. And you know, we need to, part of the reason I'm teaching a for loop is because you're going to need to use some sort of loop for writing, doing this assignment, right? The 12 days of Christmas is sort of this iterative thing where you're counting up from the first day to the 12th day. So you're running some sort of loop. It might be a while loop, but a for loop should work. So let me show you how to write a for loop. So you do for, and then you put a parentheses here. You declare your counter variable, usually like an X or something, and then you define, maybe you want to run this loop for, I don't know, 10 cycles. So X is less than 10. We actually have to not just declare the variable, but assign an initial value to it, so maybe 0. And then we specify how we're going to iterate, and we're just going to increment by 1. So the syntax for this is a little weird, but it's plus plus like this. Then we use, so these, notice that these are regular parentheses, okay? And now we're going to just sort of define the block. So this is the block where the for loop is actually running. So anything inside of here is going to run a couple of, up in this case, 10 times. Should be 10 times. So let's put a console.log statement in here and output the variable x and see what we get. And we get 0 to 9, right? If we wanted to actually run it all the way to 10, we could go like that to 10 and maybe start at 1. So now we get a nice sort of output there. So that's a for loop for you. Now let's also put in a conditional in this for loop so that when we get to the age of 5, we say, that's my favorite number or something, okay? So we write if, and then x, and this, and inside of this parentheses is where we're going to actually do the comparison. So if you know, intuitively you would probably write it as like this: is if x equals 5, right? So if x equals 5, and then we'll do something. So in this case, we'll output to the console and let's run it again, see what happens. And we have some error somewhere. So here I've finished writing it out, and notice here that the comparison actually has 2 equal signs, whereas like if I'm declaring a variable and assigning a value to it, I just use 1 equal sign. So that's called a comparative operator, and so it's doing a comparison. If we were to do just a single equals, it would actually assign 5 to x rather than compare it. So basically, let's run this again. And we're looping through, you're doing a for loop, and it's iterating, counting up to 10, and at 5 it's outputting, that's my fave number. So what if you maybe 8 was also your favorite number? How could you do that? Well, you could do, you could use the or um, sign like so, and go x equals 7. And now, oh, 8, it was supposed to be 8, right? Well, we'll just say it's 7. And now if you run it, at 5 and 7, we're outputting the fave number. Well, what if 7 was actually your second favorite number? Well, this particular construction wouldn't work. This is where maybe an else if statement would work. So instead of, we could do else and then add another conditional here where we put x equals 7. And then console log, that's my second fave number. And we can take this out now and clear it and run it again, and we get the output we want. And maybe all the rest you just felt neutrally about, so you could add an else console log. What do you say, meh? Okay, that's forgetting my semicolons here. And let's see what happens now. You get meh, meh, meh. That's my fave number. That's my second fave number. Okay. So, an if-else statement, and an if-else-if statement allow you to do a lot of branching in your code. Of course, if you have too many conditionals, it's probably best to sort of resort to what we call a switch statement. If you have, over just a couple number of cases that you're trying to evaluate, it's easier to work with a switch. So let's do that as our last thing in this video. I'm going to clone this just because I want to save that work. And now let's take out all these conditionals. Okay. And now evaluate like 4 different cases this time using a switch statement. So how do we write a switch? You write, surprise, surprise, switch. Oops, let's turn auto-run.js off. That can sometimes really screw things up. And then you evaluate the variable. In this case, it's x. And then you define your block statement. And then inside of here, say you run your case. Say it's, I don't know, 5. You can, and then you can run your console log fave, or top fave, and then you write a break and say case, what are we, 8 was our second fave one. Write it like this, console log my second fave, and again put in your semicolons and break, and let's see whether this runs. Top fave, second fave. Oh, we're missing the regular just console log x, and now run it again, and we're getting the same, using this different syntax, we're getting pretty much the same output as we had before with those conditionals. I think there was the meh thing, right? So we can put in the default here, say default. So if none of those, if the code, if none of the cases are met, then we'll run this default statement here. Meh. And let's run it again. Okay. All right. Okay, I hope this is helpful to you. I've just saved these JS bins, and so I'm actually going to make them available to you in the in the module so that you can fiddle around with them if you like.